So it isn't even, because people will say, well, that's what people wanted, and maybe you should give it to them. It's like, and this is back to that principle of subsidiarity and distributed political responsibility. You do not randomly sample impulsive public opinion and derive your doctrines of governance. So I would ask you, how would you protect yourself if you were the leader of the Conservative Party in Quebec and the Premier from falling into that trap? Because I've seen people all across the political spectrum claim allegiance to principles, but then governed by opinion polls.
Two things I want to say. First, I want to go back to the oil and gas exploitation, because it's another example of also government misusing public opinion polls. We've done public opinion polls here as well. And what we see is that when you ask people, do you want Quebec to exploit oil and gas? People say, no, 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 no. The majority says no, because, they think we're going to pollute and blah. And then when you say, okay, there's a war currently in Ukraine, it's having this impact on Germany. Do you think we should send them our liquefied gas? Yes or no? Then you have a strong majority that's saying yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to be very cautious with the data of those polls. You can't govern by polls, because depending of how you put the context in, you're going to have different results. I'm not in politics to follow polls. I'm in politics to lead polls. And as opposed to our government, we never had a government here in Quebec that has been polling as much people. It's 2-3 polls per day on average that they've done over the last few years. It's crazy. They probably polled more in this mandate than in Quebec's history altogether. And so I decided to run for a party that was at 1% and had 500 members. I was not attracted by the limousine or the title or power. What drives me is my ideas, is my ideal, is what I'm looking for, my vision for Quebec for the future. And I think that's a huge difference. And people know, and they could say, and I could testify, that I'm not there. I'm not an opportunist. And what I'm telling them, I'm not telling them 50 things. I'm not going to change Quebec altogether overnight. But there's 4 or 5 things that I want to change. I'm going to put some private in healthcare. I'm going to lower taxes for people. I'm going to exploit and even export our oil and gas in Quebec. I will give more freedom of choice to parents in the education of their kids, and even for kindergarten, because here we have a public daycare that is becoming almost a public monopoly that scares me off. I'm going to, so there's a few things like that we're going to focus on for the first 4 years. And I think that if we just achieve that, it's going to be huge.
Even if you just achieved that on the energy front, I mean, look at the situation that Canada's in.